In the last lecture, we sent a GET request, and now I just want to show you how we could get the data we get here to the screen. For that, I'll first of all add a data method in our Vue component, this special data method, where we return the data object we want to use. In this data object, I will store my email address, and it's an empty string initially. Of course, we could output all the data we get back, but I just want to demonstrate how we access the data at the example of the email address. You can, of course, then always apply this to the other fields you get back too. So let's say here in paragraph, we want to say your mail address, email address, of course. And then here I want to output email, referring to that data field. Now, the goal is to set this email field to the data we get back from the server here in the then block, because that is where we have access to the data. And that's important because it's sometimes messed up. You can't set this email equal to response email or something like that, because you only have access to the response inside this function in the then block, because this is async code. This function here in the then block runs sometime in the future. The code right after Axios get is executed immediately after this is done, without waiting for this future response. So only access data inside of this function. So with that, I'll create a function here, and I won't just console log the response, even though I will still also do that. But instead, I want to set this email equal to something from the response. Now, as you learned, our response actually holds a JavaScript object in that data field, where we have a lot of information about the users we stored. Actually, we get a lot of these cryptic keys, where then the user data is the value of these keys. So what we probably have to do is we have to loop through all these keys to get the email addresses. And that's right, addresses. We have more than one user, at least theoretically, because we're posting data, so we're storing more than one user. Still, if we want to get only one email address, let's say the first one, let's simply convert this object into an array, this object we get back. For this, first of all, I'll extract the data from res data, just a little line to make the following lines a bit shorter. Thereafter, I'll loop through my keys, so for key in data, I now want to store that in an array. So there I'll create a new users array, an empty array at the beginning. And then I will simply call users push in here and access data for a given key. That will be the value for these cryptic keys to push that into the array. However, I will fine tune this a little bit. I will create a new constant user in here. And this will be data key, because that is the user data. But then I'll also add a new property to the user ID. That's a property which didn't exist before, which should be that cryptic string, so that we don't lose that, let's say. And then I can say users push user. Now let me console log users after this for loop. And then I'll also set this email equal to users, the first element, let's say email, like this. With all these changes in place, if we now save this and go back to our application, and I reload this page, simply go back there, you see we load the email address here. And now if we reload this page one more time, you see that here I got two console logs. The original data we get back from Axios, this object where we have this data object. This is the data object we access here in our code, res data. And then this is an object, right? It's not an array. It's an object where we have keys, these cryptic strings, and values, which is our actual user data for that given ID. I do now loop through these keys with the for in loop here. And then I create a new array where I extract that user data and also add an ID to each user in that array. So that is what we can see in the array we output here at the bottom. It's an array of objects. The object is the, well, let's say right side of this data object. And here we got our ID too, so that this doesn't get lost, because this could be information we need to, for example, map a post created by that user in the future or something like that. So this is how we can extract data when using Axios. And I just wanted to show this little demo so that this is crystal clear and you know how to not only store data on the server, but that you really also know how to extract it. Of course, the exact steps differ by the format of the data your backend returns to you. Firebase happens to return this object with these cryptic keys and then the value. Your backend might return a different format. So the general idea of accessing REST data and then transforming it to your needs still is always the same though.